Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel in which I usually talk about what's ever on my mind. I am doing better than I was yesterday, so I feel like I'm able to talk about what I did on Sunday as well as some of the fruits of that incident. I essentially took 7 times my normal amount of sleeping medication, and it really ended up knocking me out for like a full day. I was completely groggy yesterday. And the fun part is my medication is also stuff that is used to like medicate for bipolar disorder or schizophrenia. So I finally understand when people say their antipsychotics make them feel completely numb. Because yesterday I had like no feelings except for anxiety, because apparently that's never allowed to leave me. And today I feel normal, rested even. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about today. What I actually wanted to talk about is the fact that for once I remembered a dream I had when I was fully asleep. I've mentioned this before, but I have aphantasia, which is the inability to voluntarily create images in your mind. Mine is to the extent where I literally can't see things in my brain, and the inner monologue of my voice is actually my own voice. I do know there's some people that don't have inner voices as well, so I can't even imagine that. But I feel like a side effect of that is I usually don't remember my dreams. If this is something that just is how my brain works, or if it's actually linked to my aphantasia, I don't know. I do know there are aphants that are able to vividly see their dreams and they see imagery in their dreams as well. They just can't recall it after they've woken up. But I can't recall dreams at all unless I'm mostly awake, in which then it's almost like lucid dreaming because I am aware that I'm partially awake, but I still don't really have control over the dream. And I still don't see those either. A great example would be a couple of weeks ago, I had this crazy dream where we moved into the house we're looking at, but my dad gave us like so many fish and reptiles, and all the neighbors hated us because we had a stunted alligator as a pet, and they just hated the stinky stuff that we fed the alligator. And Briar likes to say that my dreams are completely wild when I do remember them because it's like has to cram everything in all at once. And I find that I can't really disagree with their assessment. So I am going to talk about the dream, but I also want to mention some of the stuff that I've seen on Aphantasia forums, specifically the subreddit about it, because I have lurked there, I think, for over a year at this point. Because, yeah, definitely over a year, because I didn't find out I was an aphant until 2020, right before the pandemic shut down the US as much as was allowed to be. Um, and I've noticed there's been a trend there, and I kind of want to talk about it because it's interesting to me. Be- when you go onto the Aphantasia subreddit or other forums where amphants are talking to each other, I notice a tendency for people to be like, do you think that aphants are just generally better at XYZ because we don't have mental imagery? Um, and it's always interesting to see the response because there's some people that are like, okay, do you think aphants are less suggestible to hypnosis, for instance? Because this one particular person is an aphant and finds it very hard to be hypnotized and doesn't get anything out of meditation. But then you look in the comments and you have like, no, no, I get hypnotized all the time. An actual hypnotist actually chimed in at one point and was like, I'm an aphant and I hypnotize people all the time, or something like that. Or you'll have people talking about how they feel like they can process logically more because they're not living in their head all the time, or that traumatic events don't stick with them quite as much, which those don't bother me if they're talking about themselves. But the moment that you have someone that hasn't been through tragic life events saying that they think that aphants just have a natural advantage to not be so traumatized by the past, it bothers me because I honestly don't think someone with aphantasia and aphant will be any better or worse than any other person in the world. Like, a lot of posts are also, hey, I just found out about this. What the fuck? I thought that everything was just a expression or something like that. And I mean, they don't really change in their day to day. They may have a bit of a crisis or have a bit of jealousy towards people who actually can visualize things in their head. I know I had a bit of a crisis when I figured that out because it's like, oh, so that's why other artists have an easier time creating art than I do. Why I have to look at 1,000 references and I can't conceptualize size properly in my head unless I make an actual mock up at scale. Um, and I think the one thing that kind of helped me from not going so deep into that rabbit hole is I was also accepted into 2 grad school programs with the highest amount of scholarship possible from both programs. It was kind of validating to realize that even though I have aphantasia, I was still a good enough artist to be accepted into some pretty exclusive grad programs for book arts and printmaking. As you know, it's nice having validation, right? Some other things I've noticed is I think millennials are a little obsessed with Harry Potter because I've seen 2 Harry Potter posts recently on our Fantasia, as well as I've started script writing for my rewrite series that I'm going to be doing and hopefully posting in a couple weeks. And I also referenced Harry Potter. It's like, cool. J.K. Rowling's an awful piece of shit, but she's still affecting my life day to day. And to be fair, I feel like what I referenced Rowling's writing for was actually pretty parallel. But well, I won't get into that. I actually want to talk a bit about the dream because it's fascinating. And I know I was completely out because I didn't realize it was a dream until I woke up. And even then, it took a little bit of time to process that I had woken up because, again, I took 7 times the normal dose of my medication. Still within the realm of safety, by the way. I double checked. And I was groggy as hell the next day. So, my dream was like I was back in college, but I was also in high school. And there was these crazy hallways. Everything was so twisty and weird, and I couldn't find where I was. It's like I still had aphantasia in my sleep, and I was still really shitty with directions. So I would keep taking my group completely the wrong way. We were trying to find our classroom because it was the last day and we needed to get our stuff. And I was begging my professors to let me be a TA or something. Um, and I guess this is another nail in the head of I want to be a teacher. I want to be an art teacher because my dream had one of my professors retiring and my other professor and she were like, well, what if you start teaching? I mean, it'll be a little difficult. You don't have your master's, but maybe you can start as a TA, but like as a professional TA, not a student, and work your way up to being a professor. And I took it, and then I had a Great Pyrenees that needed a bath, and we flooded the bathroom. And I don't know what that had to do with teaching, But that was the gist of my dream. I remember great chunks of it still, but I think the insanity would be lost on people. And I kind of want to keep talking about Aphantasia because it's definitely um, definitely odd seeing how people react to learning they have it, because it's like you have the artists that are like, do you guys have any tips on how to be a better artist or a better writer when you can't see the things in your brain? And it's like, what were you doing before? uh it's understandable to have a bit of a crisis. There's other fun stuff that's like from people who can visualize things in their heads. It's like, hey, do y'all get brain freeze? And it's like, yeah. A brain freeze has to do with the dilation of your blood vessels in your brain, in your in the skin around your brain. Not it doesn't have to do with seeing things. Like, it's funny. It's like, are you okay, bro? Are you okay? Because wow, yeah, sure. Lord, okay. Sorry, I. That's not how brain freezes work. Okay. But it's interesting. I was getting to see the how people with aphantasia react, and some people try and call it a disability, or other people think it's like a superpower. And I can't help but be reminded of the good old days on DeviantArt when I was fucking 18, and everyone had those little stamps that were like, I'm bipolar or schizophrenic, I have depression, and it was like a little badge of honor of, this makes me different and special, therefore I must display this with pride. And I kind of get vibes from that sometimes, but I also kind of get vibes with that from the asexual community. So it's not really a um, one one group of people is the problem. I think it has more to do with a combination of young people trying to figure out their place in the world. So when they discover that there's something that's different about them, whether they um, are depressed, if they've been diagnosed, or they feel like they are this and they can't get diagnosed for various reasons, and they just glom onto that, and it's like, this makes me different and special, this gives me a purpose, which is not very healthy, making your purpose your mental illness if you've been diagnosed or not. Or older people like me who feel a bit lost and they don't really know what to do, which it's hard when you're an adult, when you're almost 30 years old and you've been told all your life by the time you're 30 you should be in your career and you should have a house, married, children, because my parents were 22 when they had me. They didn't have a house, but my dad was in the Marine Corps, so they moved a lot. They were in government housing, or military housing, I guess, if you want to sound less like you are being taken care of by the government, I guess. But I think that's all I've had for today. It's a shorter episode. I also included a speed draw for today because I thought it would be fun to kind of show how I simplify some images so I can prepare to print them, because these are two dog pet portraits I'm doing for a friend. I think they're going to be like Hanukkah presents or birthday presents or just wintertime presents for her family. I don't really know, I didn't ask. But yeah, I thought it would be fun to show, especially as I struggle to draw dogs, so I ended up just tracing their shape and their markings and then going in with the rest of it. I may be able to post a video of me actually carving and printing these later, but currently my desk is covered with um, screen prints that I need to edition, and some acrylic paint pour stuff that I am utterly failing at, but I'm trying to get the gist of it so that Briar can have a chance to learn how to use it too without quite as many mistakes. But I think that's it for today, guys. Just interesting stuff. Aphantasia is definitely a thing, and I don't recommend aphants to take too much sleep medication to try and have a dream if they don't remember them, because I really couldn't recommend the side effects and the safety of it, but that's what happened with me. And I just wanted to share my experience. I had a crazy dream, and I'm pretty sure I saw images in the dream, but which I don't do when I'm half awake. But of course, now I can no longer see anything at all. So, y'all have a great day. Stay hydrated. I am going to log off before Nettle starts squeaking her toy. Bye bye.